You're listening to the Rise Above podcast, the only podcast on the planet with a mission to help you live a free and uncommon life. Here's your host, Greg Smith.
Hey, yes. Welcome. Thank you again for joining me. I'm your host, Greg Smith, and this is the Rise Above podcast. I believe if you desire an uncommon freedom in business and in life, it starts with creating a champion's mindset from within. Well, what's up, everybody? I know it's been a couple weeks that I have not released an episode, and I want to tell you, that goes back to my very first episode called I'm a Procrastinator. And if you haven't listened to that episode, you probably should, because most people, that's by far the number one episode that is listened to within my podcast, and time again is probably the number one podcast episode that I get tagged on in Instagram for people who really resonate with it. So today, I really want to come to you. Normally I put together kind of like my bullet points and exactly what I'm going to say, but I want to talk with you off the cuff today because there's something that I want to share with you that's going to help you get better results. Rather, if you're looking just to make better improvements in maybe your marriage, or you're making to make better improvements in your business, or maybe it's your fitness, whatever it is that you're looking to take to the next level, I want to share with you how to do that. And here's the thing, it all starts with me telling you a story about Jiu-Jitsu. So I do Jiu-Jitsu, and my history really comes from wrestling, right? And so in wrestling, the way that you get excellent at wrestling and the way that you make things really automatic is by drilling something over and over and over again. And so I got started in Jiu-Jitsu about 3.5 years ago or so. And what I've realized, now these are grown men, right? So when I was in wrestling in high school, it was just, us high schoolers. And a lot of determination and a lot of grit would get you a long way. But when it comes into Jiu-Jitsu, it's really all about, you can't really muscle your way through it. You can't grit your way through it. Now in wrestling, it takes a lot of technique as well to be at the best of the best. But if you want to just overdo 80% of people in wrestling, a lot of grit and determination will take you a long way. But in Jiu-Jitsu, now listen to this. In Jiu-Jitsu, what I've realized is you have a couple different classes that you can go to. And the primary class that you go to when you're brand new, it's called fundamentals class. And yeah, you guessed it. It's all about fundamentals and learning the basics of Jiu-Jitsu. And so in there, it's no live rolling. We don't live. What that means is it's no full go. It's basically I put my hand here and then I do this, and now all of a sudden somebody's choking to death and they tap out. And meaning they tap you and then you let go. You don't choke them to death. And so what I've realized, everybody has this weird misconception of what Jiu-Jitsu is. Now, granted, if you didn't tap out, and I've had a guy who didn't tap out and he just kept fighting it, and sure enough, he fell asleep and started snoring, and we shook him. He woke up, and that's part of it. Now he learned how to tap sooner. And so my point to all of this is in fundamentals class, you can learn and you can learn and you can learn, and you can continue doing these repetitions over and over and over and over again. And I see guys that do this. And then we have something that's called open mat and advanced class, where advanced class we get to actually apply what it is that we're learning in a live setting. And what I've seen, because I've been around long enough to where I've seen guys move up the rank, right? The belt system. And I feel like this directly applies to business and entrepreneurs, is so many entrepreneurs and so many people that want to make a health change and all this, they do all this planning and they put all these reps into learning something new or studying or researching, or, entrepreneurs specifically, will consume and consume and consume, and then they never produce. And I liken it to the guy who goes in to the basics class, the fundamentals class in Jiu-Jitsu, and he's doing the move, and he's putting his hand here, and he's doing this, and his partner's going, tap, tap, yeah, that's good, yeah. And so the guy feels real good, he's like, yeah, my choke's working, my arm lock's working, and he feels great. And what happens to that guy is at some point, he has to test his skills in the real world. And so he goes to open mat and he finds out that things in the real world are different. When you have somebody who is resisting you and moving differently and not just allowing you to just do this move to them, then all of a sudden something doesn't work the way that you think it should work. And that person typically either grows or goes, is what I say. So they either grow and they continue to come back and they continue to get beat up a little bit, but in the end they become better because of it, and their application of a technique gets even better, and they become better, and ultimately they continue to grow and flourish into a better jiu-jitsu technician. And what I see sometimes though is people that they get beat up a little bit and then they head right back. And I'll tell you, for me personally, like, this is why I love jiu-jitsu. I originally, coming from the wrestling world, sometimes you have a little bit more belief in yourself than you probably should. Call it ego, pride, right? And you can come in and you think that what you know is the end all be all. Like, you think as a wrestler, you could just pretty much beat anybody up, especially if they're smaller than you. Well, come find out in jiu-jitsu, that's not true whatsoever, because when you actually apply these techniques that are not based on strength, but more of structure and physics, you can have, a girl or a woman that's 50 pounds lighter than you choke you out. And on the street, that would mean death. And so for me, getting into jiu-jitsu, I knew right away, coming from the wrestling world, even though I was getting beat up and I was feeling just like down on myself all the time when I first started, I still loved it because I was always learning and I was applying it by going to the live sessions, and I was learning what works and doesn't work. And so I was able to progress quicker than some other people. And what I see right now, I had a conversation just the other day with a guy I was at jiu-jitsu earlier today, and he's not progressing as fast as he would like. But what I asked him was, how many times are you getting in your live rolling sessions? And it was like once a week. And to me, that just doesn't cut it. But what it reminds me of is the entrepreneur that consumes and they learn and they read, and in their mind, they're sitting here and they're going, yep, yeah, okay, yeah, I can see how that works. Yep, that's great. They have all these strategies and tactics that they've learned, and they're like, yeah, this is awesome. And they talk about, one day, when I actually live roll, right? When I actually do this, it's going to do this. But it's not, that guy is never the guy that makes it. It's the guy who learns the technique, and on the same day, he goes out and he starts applying what he's learning. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to work on that day. More than likely, it won't. And what he learns is how to adjust small little movements, small little nuances. And before you know it, it starts working every 1 out of 10, and then every 2 out of 10. And before you know it, they become better and better and better at that move, and they progress up the scale.
Are you someone who wants to live life on your own terms? Do you dream of having more time to spend doing the things you love? Then download your copy of The Freedom Formula absolutely free at www.riseabovepodcast.com. What are you waiting for? Go to www.riseabovepodcast.com to get your free copy of The Freedom Formula.
And I share that story because so many people want to progress in different areas of their life. And number one, they either procrastinate, which if that's you, go back and listen to episode number 1 about being a procrastinator. But if you're not a procrastinator and you're somebody who likes to learn and you strategize and theorize about how to solve this problem that you have, which for entrepreneurs is this never-ending, problem of wanting to grow and create and expand and implement new things. Well, this is what it's about. It's about taking action on what it is that you're learning, and learning that, maybe that makes sense in a textbook, but in the real world, it needs tweaked a little. But the only way you learn that is by applying whatever it is that you're learning at the same time. And so those who are most successful in jiu-jitsu that I've seen, they're not afraid to try something new. They're not afraid to get beat up a little bit. They're not afraid to put themselves in a sticky situation where they possibly could get, choked out or arm locked or whatever it might be. They're not afraid to do that because they're willing to take a risk to learn something new so that they can get better and they can progress and they can evolve. And as an entrepreneur, you have to constantly be evolving. And the way that you evolve is by learning a new tactic or a new strategy and applying it in the real world. All right. And so I'll tell you, like, even for me, this has been something that I've struggled with, a lot, because I love to learn. I love to strategize. I love to do research. I also love to teach and coach and mentor. But when it comes to actually implementing, oftentimes I can procrastinate. And oftentimes the reason I don't do something, and I don't know if you can relate with this or not, but oftentimes when I learn something new, I can see how it could work. And, I'm the new guy in the fundamentals class where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And okay. And my partner, maybe a friend is like, yeah, Greg, that totally will work. But oftentimes I don't take action on it right away because deep down inside, I have a fear and I have this like pit in my stomach that it won't work. And so the fear of like failing, what most people consider failure, often holds people back from actually implementing something that they're learning. Now in jiu-jitsu, that's my point, is you'll get a guy who's not afraid to necessarily quote unquote fail, right? Like lose a round. He's not afraid to lose a round by getting tapped, or even in a round, like, I've been tapped like, 10 times within 5 minutes before, especially when I was brand new. They're not afraid to go through those different like hurdles to where in the end you come out better. And that's what I want to encourage you right now. Like if there's something that you're learning or you've wanted to implement yourself or put out there, or maybe there's just like this new level of you that you've been looking to go down, don't hold back by just learning and thinking about it and never actually doing anything about it or getting in the arena. One of my podcasts is called Gold Medals Are for Winners. And I've gotten some feedback on that. Primarily, most of it's good. If you're listening to me at this point, you understand my mentality that only those that are competing, right, get the gold medal. And, we are in the game of life. And unfortunately, life, you can make it a game, but it's not a very fun game unless you're playing. And those that play well get rewarded. And this is how you play well, is you seek knowledge in whatever it is that you're looking to do or expand or get better in. But most importantly, you start applying different things that you're learning as you're learning them. So that way you get feedback right away and you can pivot and you can readjust and you can get better results quicker than before. So don't be like the guy or gal that only comes to fundamentals and never puts themselves out there in a situation where you actually could fail, but you learn. So don't be that person. Be the person who's willing to take some risk, because in the end, especially in jiu-jitsu, as we get a higher belt or more stripes, people don't look at all of the taps and all of the pain that it took to get to that belt. They just respect the belt. They respect the belt. And the same thing happens in business. I've been an entrepreneur for over 11 years, and people will respect the success, but oftentimes they fail to look at all of the things I've gone through to get to where I am, and the things I continue to go through to get to where I want to go. And so it's just this constant journey that I'm on, that you're on, and I want to encourage you not to be afraid to step out in faith and apply whatever it is that you are learning right now. So that is really all I wanted to get out for today. I hope that you find that helpful. And if you did, make sure to go over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review. Otherwise, with that, I hope that you have a great day. Make it a great day. Go out and apply and do it now. Take care. God bless.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.